Many people believe that baba au rhum is Italian, largely because of its iconic status in Naples. However, its origins can be tracked back to Poland. Stick with me until the end, and I'll show you how this dessert evolved from Polish babka to a French pastry classic, made its way to Naples, and how you can create a pastry shop quality baba au rhum at home. Before I show you how to make this delicious dessert, share its story, and give you the full recipe, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more tasty recipes and interesting food stories. Your support truly means a lot for me. So let's get back to the story. It is made with a very simple and accessible ingredients. But what makes the dessert especially interesting is its story. Before we move on to the recipe, I want to briefly talk about its history. The name baba entered the French language from Polish. It is often connected to the Polish word babka, which literally means an elder woman. But in a pastry context, it was also used as the name for a tall traditional yeast cake. According to one of the most common explanations, the rigid shape of the cake was associated with an old-fashioned plated skirt. And now the main question is, how did a Polish elderly lady end up in France? And how did it become such a famous and beloved dessert? The story begins in the 18th century. The Polish king Stanislaw Leszczyński, after losing the struggle for the Polish throne, was given the Duchy of the Lorraine for the rest of his life as compensation through an agreement between European powers. In return, Stanislaw gave up his claim to the Polish crown. When the former Polish king became Duke of Lorraine, he arrived there with his royal court, his Polish culinary traditions, and among them, a cake similar to babka. This is where a new idea appears. This is where the experiment begins, soaking the cake with the wine or syrup, making the dough richer and transforming it into a dessert. The decisive role belongs to the royal pastry chef Nicolas Storer. Later in 1730s, Storer opened his own pastry shop in Paris. Storer, which still exists today and is widely considered one of the oldest pastry shops in Paris, still is in operation. This is their official website, where you can clearly see both baba au rhum and the history of the pastry shop itself. So, in short, it was Storer who transformed the Polish babka into the refined French baba au rhum. Later, baba also became popular in Italy, especially in Naples. Neapolitan pastry traditions embraced this dessert so strongly that today for many people it has become part of Neapolitan pastry culture. So we can say that baba brings together three cultures: Poland because of its name and traditions, France because of its pastry refinement, and Italy where it became one of the symbols of Neapolitan dessert culture. Now it is time to start making this fascinating dessert, especially since the chef, who was spent a lot of time working on this topic, went through the literature, searched for information and the most reliable and authoritative sources, and is now impatiently waiting to see the real result, to understand with her own eyes why this dessert is so interesting. So let's begin. All the wet ingredients should be at a room temperature and the milk should be slightly warm. First, I add the flour, sugar and yeast into the bowl of a stand mixer. I mix them briefly and then I add the warm milk, eggs and vanilla. Using the dough hook, I kneaded the dough. This dough needs quite a long kneading time. I knead it for about 4 to 5 minutes at first. Only after that do I add the butter in 3 stages along with the salt. After adding the butter, I continue kneading for about 10 more minutes. Baba dough needs more kneading than most other doughs because it's very rich dough made with eggs, milk and butter. In this kind of dough, the structure develops more slowly, so it needs time to become elastic and airy. Later, the structure will help the cake absorb the syrup properly without falling apart. The dough will not be the kind of dough that completely cleans the sides of the mixer bowl because it remains quite sticky. But when it becomes glossy, elastic and smooth, it's ready. I transfer it to a clean bowl, cover it with a damp towel and leave it to rise. Mine took about 1.5 hours. A traditional baba mold has a cylindrical shape and during baking the dough forms a mushroom-like cap on top. Unfortunately, I don't have that type of mold, so I'll choose a taller, narrower glass and place the rest of the dough into muffin molds. I grease both the glass and the molds with butter, fill them halfway with dough and leave them for another 30 minutes to rise. Then I place them in a preheated oven at 108 degrees Celsius. For the first 10 minutes, I bake them using only bottom heat, and then for the remaining 15 minutes, I bake them with both top and bottom heat. The little buns should come out well baked, nicely brown and golden. While the buns are cooling, I prepare the syrup. For the syrup, I combine water, sugar and citrus zest. I boil it for about 5 minutes and then I let it cool. When the syrup has cooled slightly, this is the stage where rum is traditionally added, but I made my version without alcohol. I place the buns into the warm syrup, spread them down well and let them soak for about 1 minute, so they can absorb the syrup properly. Finally, I brush the tops with apricot jam and that's it, baba au rhum is ready. It becomes even more delicious after a few hours and it can be served with cream or ice cream if desired. It may be a slightly unphotogenic dessert, but it's incredibly delicious, very tender, fluffy and wonderfully aromatic.